Now we're joining you live from the Center Club in downtown Baltimore. Some of you are watching us virtually on our live stream, so welcome to the 6th Annual Baltimore Sun Business and Civic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We hope that you, go ahead, thank you. So we hope that you, your family, and your friends are safe, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us this evening. It's great to be with so many of you. This is an event that we here at the Sun look forward to every year. So now the Baltimore Sun works tirelessly to provide our region with trusted news and information that our readers have come to expect during the past 184 years. And we're committed to providing this news when and where our users want it. Now, our news staff, the largest news gathering team in Maryland, delivers award-winning journalism, breaking news, thoughtful commentary, and accountability reporting that we believe makes Baltimore and Maryland a better place for its citizens. Now, we also know we have a responsibility to highlight and celebrate achievements in this community. It's another important role that we play here, and we have done so since 1837. And it's part of what we are doing this evening, and I've talked to many of you about that tonight. Now, this has been another year that has been anything but normal, and we are doing things a little bit different time of year for us for this event, given the pandemic. And despite the virus and the impact that it's had on all of us, we felt it was important to continue this tradition to highlight the important work leaders in our community are doing to make the region better. So tonight, we thank the Baltimore Sun's Business and Civic Hall of Fame class of 2021 for their contributions to making the city and state a better place. Now, each of these individual contributions will be shared with you this evening as we honor them, and Sun readers will begin to read about those achievements tomorrow on baltimoresun.com. And our special magazine, which many of you probably got a chance to see before you came in today, will be delivered with the Sunday editions of the Baltimore Sun to thousands of households across the region. So I'd like to thank our editorial board for developing the magazine, as they do every year. And we also, just to give you a little bit of background about how we choose our Hall of Famers, we always ask our readers for nominations, and we also put together a committee of former folks that we've put into the Hall of Fame. And some of those representatives are here, but I want to just go through the folks who helped us out this year. So first, we have P.J. Mitchell, who is here tonight and is also president of the Center Club. Many of you know law professor Larry Gibson was on the committee. We also have one of our Hall of Famers here this evening who also helped us with this selection this year. It's UMBC President, Dr. Freeman Hrabowski. Congratulations on your upcoming retirement, Dr. Hrabowski. We also had philanthropist Mary Ann and Wally Pinkard helped us out. Thelma Daly, National Director of Women in the NAACP. Brown Advisory President and CEO Mike Hankin, and Public Relations CEO Sandy Hillman. Those were all the folks that helped our editorial board choose the final class this year. So again, congratulations to our Hall of Fame members for your lasting efforts to improve our community. So there are some other Hall of Famers here. We talked about PJ. We talked about Dr. Hrabowski. So PJ was the class of 2018, I believe, right? And Dr. Hrabowski was the class of 2020 last year. We also have another member of last year's class. Let's see here. Chairman and CEO of Greenberg Gibbons, Brian Gibbons. I did see Brian here, right? Brian, there he is. Thank you. Also from last year. And we also have former Senator Frank Kelly Jr., who was in our inaugural class in 2016. And I think the senator's here. He is. There he is, Frank. I think I got all of our Hall of Famers, right, who are here tonight? Okay, great. And those of you who are watching, congratulations to you. Now, as I noted, this is the 6th year that we've done this to honor modern-day Marylanders. And last year, we installed a permanent Hall of Fame on the 15th floor of the Center Club. through a partnership with the Center Club as well as our longtime partners at BGE. You can find plaques honoring the names of each of our Hall of Fame classes there, and we will add future Hall of Fame recipients to this permanent locations in years to come. And we look forward to Center Club visitors learning about these Maryland leaders and celebrating their achievements. If you get a chance later tonight, please go down and take a look. The Center Club has been renovated downstairs and is open, as PJ would want me to tell you. So on to the festivities. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sharon Nevins, our Vice President of Advertising at Baltimore Sun Media. She is the engine that drives this event every year. She is incredibly passionate about the work we do at Baltimore Sun Media, and we are just so thrilled that she's a partner with us. And so I'd like to bring her to the podium. So thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Triff. True words indeed. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I get the distinct pleasure of thanking our sponsors tonight, and none of this would be possible without each and every one of you. I'll start with BGE. I'm looking to my left and to my right. BGE has been our partner in this event since its inception, and we are incredibly grateful to them. It's been really fun to talk to many of you this evening. We will hear from BGE shortly. I'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor this evening, M&T Bank, who will also share remarks later in the program. Many, many thanks to Whiting Turner, the Pizzuto Group, Johns Hopkins Hospital and University, UMBC, Kelly Benefits, the Northeast Maglev Team, the University of Maryland Medical System, Evergreen Advisors, the Greater Baltimore Committee, Towson University, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, Rabbit Hole Bourbon, and I know there was a lot of Rabbit Hole Bourbon going around during the cocktail hour, and Flowers and Fancies. A big thank you to my team, who also worked tirelessly to make tonight happen, especially Sarah Kirby. Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it. And thanks to each and every one of you for being here tonight. It's really nice to be in person and enjoy each other. So I'd like to now introduce Kareem Kuzami to the stage from BGE. Kareem?
Well, thank you, Sharon, and thank you all for being here this evening. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to the 6th Annual Baltimore Sun Business and Civic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Let me start by saying it is great to see so many of you attending in person, and also to thank all of those that are attending virtually. Either way, you've taken time out of your busy schedules to come celebrate with us, and for that we are very grateful. I think we can all agree that the last year and a half has taught us to celebrate the wins, both big and small, and tonight is definitely a win. Not just for those being honored, but for us as a collective community of people and organizations who care about Baltimore, who recognize its potential, and are committed to making it better. It's an honor for BGE to be part of this outstanding celebration, which we have proudly sponsored since its inception. Where else but here can we get the chance to acknowledge and honor the collective accomplishment of people who have spent their entire lives uplifting our communities in so many amazing ways. We have an outstanding and diverse class of inductees, all of whom have taken different paths and led very different lives, yet there are common threads in every story and background, as you will hear tonight. There is purpose, there is pride, there is compassion, and there's a sense of community in each story you'll hear tonight. I'm very fortunate to lead the 3,200 men and women at BGE who take great pride in powering a cleaner and brighter future for our customers and communities. They're focused on delivering safe and reliable energy and providing distinctive customer service. With families spending more time together, some still working at home and learning from home, and our hospitals and other medical facilities on the front lines fighting the COVID-19 battle, the service we provide is perhaps more important today than it ever has been before. But in addition to providing this critical service, if you ask BGE employees what makes this company special, you'll also hear about how much they value giving back to the community. And that's something that all of our honorees here tonight have in common. Their relentless commitment to giving back and knowing and understanding that when we lift people and communities up, that makes all of us better and all of us stronger. At BGE, giving back takes many forms, from our focus on increasing our local spending with diverse businesses, to our employee giving and volunteer campaigns, to our corporate support of regional universities and nonprofits, as well as providing small businesses and residential customers with COVID-19 relief and recovery. Like tonight's honorees and organizations they represent, we believe it is our responsibility to help lift up the communities that we serve by making a difference in the lives of people who call Baltimore home. For example, through BG's Workforce Collaboration, which is a partnership that we have with Civic, lives are changing and dreams never before imagined are being realized. In just a moment, you'll see a short video and hear firsthand from Jermaine and Kevin, who are beating the odds, defying the statistics, and changing the narrative. Like BGE, our honorees tonight lean in. They teach important lessons through their leadership, guidance, and good works. That's why we're all here tonight, to thank them, to honor them, but most of all, to be inspired by them. So again, I'd like to thank you all for coming to tonight's celebration. I hope you enjoy the evening, and now I'd like to turn your attention to the video. Thank you.
I think the Civic Works program was I think it changed my life tremendously.
I wanted to work in the construction field because I'm more of a hands-on person. I pretty much like hard work. I don't like easy work.
You know, I was incarcerated for 12 years, and throughout that whole time I was hearing, man, they don't get work to felons, you know what I mean? It's hopeless. It's hopeless you're gonna have to go back to what you're doing. As soon as I came home, I went to Civic Works, and I graduated, man. Ferguson Trencher Company was there at the graduation, and they hired me.
We got involved with Civic Works and the BGE program. It's really been fabulous. Finding workers with the workforce shortage, local and nationally, is an extreme problem, so we were very eager to get involved.
I ain't never known none of this type of work enough, so they really worked with me and was patient until I got it right and made sure I got it right.
The workforce program changed my life because now I don't have to go from job to job. I have one job that's my career now.
We know that if they've completed and graduated the program, they're committed. And so then we can take them from there, place them in our company, and build them from there.
Wake up and say, I made it. I finally got a career that something I can stick with and be able to provide for my family.
Oh man, I know my fiance, when we look in each other's eyes, man, she know for a fact that I'm there. You know what I mean? It's security. You know, my mother, she don't gotta worry about nothing at night, you know. She can sleep at night. So I see that in her eyes, you know what I mean? And my children look at me knowing that I'm gonna be there for them. And I ain't going nowhere, and I'm gonna be the example that I am.
Hall of Fame, we at the Sun and our partners recognize a local charity. And this year, we're recognizing the Greater Baltimore Urban League, which is the local affiliate of the National Urban League and has long been helping disadvantaged Marylanders gain access to equal opportunity in employment, education, healthcare, and housing. Their mission is to enable African Americans and others to secure economic self-reliance, parity, power, and civil rights. Their strategy for pursuing the mission is ensuring that children are well educated and equipped for economic self-reliance. They also focus on helping adults attain economic self-sufficiency through good jobs, home ownership, entrepreneurship, and wealth accumulation, and they work tirelessly on ensuring and promoting civil rights. So this year, the Baltimore Sun's Business and Civic Hall of Fame is proud to partner with the Urban League and support their ongoing efforts. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Tiffany Majors, President and CEO of the Greater Baltimore Urban League. There's a step here and there.
Good evening. On behalf of Greater Baltimore Urban League, our team, our board of directors, our chairman, Ricky Smith, we are humbled and honored to receive such an acknowledgement and hosts of support from BGE and its administrators and consistent sponsors. As we continue to dismantle structural racism and eradicate the many forms of oppression in education, employment, social justice, fair housing, and quality health care for marginalized communities, we will be reminded of our many partners who support our efforts, also standing firmly to remove those barriers to disable Black and brown people in a quality and sustainable life that enables them the opportunity to economic development, equity in every walk of life. Greater Baltimore Urban League works tirelessly to ensure equity in education, employment, fair housing, voting rights, justice and police reform, racial and social justice, truth and transparency, and quality health care for marginalized communities. We stand firm and dedicated to eradicate inequities by way of direct hands-on support and advocacy for all. Our labor to disband oppression, occupational, and economic segregation continues as we dissect and examine critical race theory, white fragility, historical systematic oppression, best practices to enhance the economic opportunity for minorities, small businesses, youth, seniors, those experiencing homelessness, those returning back to society to become employable citizens and provide for their families and communities. We look forward to continue serving the Baltimore region and this resilient city of Baltimore. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We're going to break for dinner. And those of you who are watching virtually, we will start the induction ceremonies, the best part of the night, at 7:30. And please enjoy. Thank you.
this delicious meal. We do want to move on just because we are live streaming for an audience online, but please enjoy this incredible meal. Join me in thanking the Center Club and their staff for just an incredible evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Augie Chisera, President of the Greater Baltimore and Chesapeake region of M&T Bank. Augie.
Hey, Sharon, I've never heard my name pronounced that succinctly and clearly, so thank you. I'll take it up to the practice we had last year. And I think Triff, taking account for last year, this is so much, I don't know, livelier than what I expected. I'll tell you, when we talked about this event, I was talking to the team back at M&T, and I said, yeah, the event's tomorrow night, and they're going to have 165 people in attendance. And the room got all quiet. They said, well, how many? I said 16.5. And I said, no, it was 165. And then I started questioning myself, saying, gosh, I haven't been to an event that has had this many people before. So thank you so much for kind of coming out and celebrating with us, because there's so much to celebrate. And PJ, the club has never, ever looked better. So if you hadn't had a chance to go on to 15 yet, the shameless plug for the Center Club, go to 15. The space is absolutely spectacular. Look, I'll be brief because I know I stand between you and celebrating the honorees. And it's funny, I happen to be reading a book right now. It's a fascinating book. It's called Bleeding Out, horrible title, but it deals with urban violence and the causes of urban violence. And the author is this guy, Thomas Abt. He's a research fellow at the Kennedy School of Government. And he says, the premise is that urban violence is a result of a few bad people doing bad things in certain geographies. And what struck me is the folks that we're celebrating tonight are the inverse of that. Because really, when it comes to building communities, when it comes to growing local businesses, and when it comes to enriching the lives of all Baltimoreans, it's really the outcome of a few good people who we're going to be recognizing tonight, doing some remarkable things in support of our broader Baltimore community. And this is really who we're recognizing tonight. And these are the individuals that we're going to memorialize and recognize here at the Center Club. And it's really a handful of people doing amazing things to make Baltimore a better place for all of us. So really, congratulations to all of our honorees. And on behalf of the 2,000 employees that call Baltimore home for M&T Bank, thank you for all you do for making this such a special place for all of us. And congratulations.
As a veteran-owned business, you feel committed to the veteran community. 25 to 30% of our workforce is veterans, so you feel that moral obligation. As the company has grown, M&T has continued to change their relationship with us and grow with us. M&T's been a great partner for us. When you look at shared values, one of the things that we have with M&T is our commitment to the local community. We do have a ton of veterans in the company, and I'm proud of that.
Hello, it's so nice to see so many people here. My first year attending was last year when just a handful of people could make it in person. So even though the pandemic drags on, this feels like progress. My name is Tricia Bishop. I'm the opinion editor at the Baltimore Sun. And my team on the editorial board had the pleasure of interviewing tonight's honorees and the people who know them best to put together a special section that will appear online tomorrow morning and run in print over the weekend. And now I have the honor of introducing our 2021 class of Hall of Fame inductees. So let's get to it. First up, we have James Piper Bond. After college, Mr. Bond embarked on an adventuring life around the globe, sailing the South Pacific on a sailboat, teaching maritime programs in France and Switzerland, and coaching lacrosse at an Australian university. But in 1986, he returned to his hometown of Baltimore to become education director aboard the Lady Maryland, a learning vessel and the flagship of what would soon become the Living Classrooms Foundation. 3 years later, Mr. Bond would become its executive director, and in 1995, the CEO and president. Beginning with that single floating laboratory to teach children about the environment and maritime history, Mr. Bond developed the foundation over its 4 decades into an anti-poverty force on the Baltimore waterfront, offering an array of programs that have touched thousands of lives. Among them, urban gardening for kids, post-prison employment and job training for ex-offenders, and a tuition-free middle school. Last year, the Foundation's Safe Streets sites conducted more than 400 mediations to stop brewing violence in the city. Its Project Serve, a program that helps ex-offenders find employment after prison, recorded 151 job placements in a battered economy. During the pandemic, under Mr. Bond's direction, the nonprofit shifted its mission to help East Baltimore families adjust to the effects of the pandemic. Staffers distributed thousands of meals and household supplies and thousands of activity boxes in science, math, and art for children. Meanwhile, Mr. Bond secured a $1 million donation from Oprah Winfrey. It was his second from her in 5 years. That's how much people believe in his work. The Baltimore Sun is pleased to include him among the honorees in this year's Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Mr. Bond, if you join us.
Well, Tricia, thank you very much. And Triff and the Baltimore Sun, we're extraordinarily grateful for this honor. And when I look out and I see Anna and Augie and Tim and Freeman and the Kelly family and Alicia and the folks from Bank of America, and I mean, we got so many friends here. It's wonderful. And to be in the company of the Pizzutos and the other honorees is a real honor. And Mike Gill and all the support that this organization has been able to have from the state, from the federal government, from the city, from corporations, foundations, and individuals. But it's all about how can we make Baltimore and help Baltimore be a safer, stronger, and healthier city. And we've got a lot more work to do, frankly. And this is a great honor, but the honor is the work we do day in and day out with the children, youth, and adults and family that we are on this journey with, and to provide them the opportunities in very unique settings, whether it's all the ships you see out the window, or at the Under Armour house up on Fayette Street, or at Masonville, the country's first urban wildlife refuge over in South Baltimore, and the dozen schools we work with there. It's growing our charter school. It's raising another $70 million to not only sustain, but to expand and scale the work. So we got a lot of work to do. We're grateful for this, and onward and upward. Thank you.
Thomas Pizzuto and Barbara Mancinelli, born 6 months apart, grew up in hardworking Italian-American families in Waterbury, Connecticut. He was a public school kid who became captain of his high school football team. She went to Catholic school and was a self-described music nerd who studied piano. They didn't know each other until after both had gone off to separate colleges. They dated, but only briefly, because Tom had been drafted into the Army for wartime service. He went to Vietnam in October of 1969. 6 months into his tour, Tom talked a captain into granting leave to meet Barbara in Hawaii. No one familiar with her will be surprised at what happened next. On April 17, 1970, in Waikiki, she proposed. They were married that afternoon in the Fort DeRussy Chapel, wearing red leis and sporting $14 gold wedding bands. Over the course Over the course of the next 5 decades, Tom and Barbara Pizzuto moved to Maryland, started a family, and became leaders in Baltimore's business community and philanthropic circles. Their 51-year marriage has provided the foundation for Tom's successful development company, the Pizzuto Group, which now manages some 82,000 units, and Barbara's myriad civic and professional endeavors. He built apartment buildings, she promoted Baltimore. They both took on leadership roles in supporting institutions and charities. Barbara brought Olympic gymnastic trials to the downtown arena and tall ships to the harbor, and has helped raise millions of dollars for the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, WYPR, the Enoch Pratt Free Library, the Peabody Institute, Stevenson University, and St. Agnes Hospital. The Baltimore Sun is pleased to include them in the 2021 Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Mr. and Mrs. Pizzuto.
Only young people should do this.
For the first time in 51 years, my trophy wife is letting me speak for both of us. And this is what a $14 ring looks like. This is a great honor, and Triff, to you and your colleagues at the Baltimore Sun, Barbara and I are very, very grateful. Thank you very much for this honor. It is, as James said, a double honor. Because of those who have received this recognition in the past, and especially because of those who are receiving it with us this year. And to them, Barbara and I say thank you for everything you've done for this community, and congratulations on this recognition. A few years back, I was at an event similar to this and heard our friend and a previous honoree and probably friend of many of you, Eddie Brown, say something that I thought we hear all the time, but I think he said it very cogently. And what he said is, it is the responsibility, the moral responsibility of those of us who have been blessed with success and prosperity to share that success and prosperity with others who have not been so fortunate. Barbara and I have tried to lead our lives that way. We believe in that very, very fervently, and we will continue to live our lives that way. But as importantly, we think it important to bring your colleagues and your family into that mindset. And I will tell you, as I sit here tonight, that the people at the Pizzuto Group have one purpose, and that is to bring sanctuary to those who live in our communities. And in our family, right down to our youngest grandchild, every one of us is committed to and active in trying to make our community better. We all need to work together at that. It's a big job, but we can do it together. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Triff.
You didn't think I was going to let him get away with that. I agree with everything my beloved has said, but I wanted to add my own admiration for the people in this room who work every day at a job that they love, they employ people, and they do the best they can for their community. The talent, the resources, the will, and the desire in this room allows us to do together anything we need to do. Thank you.
When people want business or political advice about the Baltimore region or introductions to prominent figures, they turn to Donald Fry, a former state legislator and the current president and chief executive officer of the Greater Baltimore Committee. Mr. Fry showed an early interest in history, government, and politics as floor manager for a mock national political convention in 7th grade. And as a freshman at what is now Frostburg State University, where he was a student government president, he wrote an essay setting out a career goal that he would first get his university degree, then his law degree, and then run for a seat in the Maryland House of Delegates by the time his graduating class held its 10th reunion. He was off by only 3 years. In the General Assembly, elected to represent Harford County, Mr. Fry served on a number of appropriations subcommittees in the House before his appointment to the State Senate, where he served on the Budget and Taxation Committee. He was a quick study and a smart negotiator, but as Harford County turned increasingly Republican, the Democrat lost his Senate bid in 1998. It was then that the Greater Baltimore Committee beckoned, bringing him on as executive vice president and general counsel until he took over as CEO in 2002 when another Don, and a 2021 Hall of Fame honoree tonight, moved on to lead SunTrust Bank. Mr. Fry brought together local economic development directors and business leaders to find new ways to nurture the region, and today still touts the area's strengths while also focusing on ways to reduce crime in the city and encourage a more diverse and equitable work environment. The Baltimore Sun is pleased to welcome him into the 2021 class of our Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Mr. Fry.
Thank you very much, Tricia, and thanks to Baltimore Sun and to Triff and the selection committee. In previous years, I was honored to actually serve on the selection committee for tonight's award. But with the uncertainty that was taking place with events, it actually slipped my mind that I hadn't been invited to participate on the selection committee. But tonight's recognition is much better than being on that selection committee. First, my congratulations to my fellow awardees who do tremendous work in the city and throughout the state. Anyone who is receiving recognition such as this has many people to thank. First, my wife Bonnie, who's here with me tonight, our son Matt, who couldn't be here. I'm somewhat known for working long hours, and both of them, and particularly Bonnie, has been very understanding over the years when I've not necessarily been home when others may be. My sister Lynn is here with me tonight. She's always been very supportive and encouraging. And of course, certainly thanks to all the current and past GBC board members, an incredible group of business and civic leaders. Some are here, some are actually being recognized this evening. It's been an honor and pleasure and privilege to work with each of them. Also, current and past GBC employees. Two extraordinary employees are with me tonight. Mark Geider, who's our Vice President of Communications and Marketing, and Karen Parris, our Executive Assistant, is here tonight. Unfortunately, Jennifer Paglia could not join us this evening. And I'm also joined by Diane Hutchins, who sort of is representing the past employees of the GBC, as someone who I've known for a long time, and we worked together in many different stages. Listening to Tricia, as I reflect back on how I actually got on stage here tonight, it does take me back to 1998, and that's when I lost my election to return to the Senate of Maryland. I was devastated. Anybody who's been in that situation realizes that that's what you go through. And people kept saying things to me like, things happen for a reason, and it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Well, Bonnie can tell you that I grew to dislike those phrases very much, as they offered very little solace to me whatsoever. But also during that time, I had a chance to meet with a number of friends and mentors who talked about future plans and opportunities for me. Was I going to run for office again? Was I looking for a different job? And the good news was I was in a good place. I was in a law practice. I didn't need a job. But I indicated to those people that really what got my juices flowing and what motivated me was public policy and problem solving. And I was fortunate and got a break when actually, after having lunch one time, actually on the 15th floor, one of those people ultimately reached out to me, Don Hutchinson, who is an honoree tonight, reached out and told me of an opportunity at the Greater Baltimore Committee to come and work with him. Clearly, that was a turning point in my career, and I wouldn't be here tonight but for that phone call. So Don, thanks again for that opportunity. This ultimately led for me to be here this evening. I appreciate that very much. I'm humbled to be included with this exceptional group of business and civic leaders. I thank you for the honor. It truly is a highlight of my career. And Triff and Tricia, if you call next year, I'll gladly serve again on the selection committee.
6 years ago, Mike Gill was enjoying a successful professional life in the private sector. Then Governor Larry Hogan came calling with an offer for Mr. Gill to be Maryland's Secretary of Commerce. The last thing he was looking for was a government job, and the only experience he had been running for student government at Calvert Hall and losing. Governor Hogan said he did the same at DeMatha, and that's about all it took to get Mr. Gill on board. He brought to government the same enthusiasm he brings to other areas of his life, dubbing himself the state's chief sales officer and its many businesses the customers he wanted to help. Credit Calvert Hall again for Mr. Gill's respect for teamwork and competition. That's where he played 4 years of varsity baseball, made All-Metro twice, and threw 4 no-hitters. He went to Clemson University on a baseball scholarship and later would earn a degree from Towson University. His first job was in sales at IBM, but he quickly rose through the ranks to teach sales for the company. Following management stints at Ernst & Young and Data Systems, Mr. Gill went into business for himself in 1984, founding Americom, a technical services company in the wireless industry. By 2000, it had grown to 1,200 employees. Mr. Gill then founded the wireless communications company First Page USA. In 2007, he joined Evergreen Advisors, an investment bank and corporate advisory firm, where he remains chairman since returning from leave to serve in the Hogan administration. Those who know him say he's an exemplary leader and generous mentor who motivates others to achieve meaningful change. We're pleased to include him in the 2021 Baltimore Sun Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Mr. Gill.
Good evening. Watch, Triff, watch this. I can do it in under 2 minutes. Watch this. First of all, to recognize all the Hall of Famers. There's a group who are tonight's Hall of Famers, 2021, but you're all Hall of Famers, so give yourself a hand. It's a great group of people. And my great family down here in the front, without them, where are we, Freeman? It's what it's all about. So thank you for all that you've meant. You're the best. And Triff, you and the Sun Papers, thank you. I was goofing off. There was a Zoom going on, and I was paying attention more to my emails than the Zoom one day. And I got that email from you, and I thought, that's pretty cool. Hall of Fame. Are you kidding me? My mentor, Frank Kelly, Senator, thank you for everything. My St. Joe family back here, our leader, Tommy Smythe. And as I thought about a couple remarks, I thought about where we are tonight. It's Light Street, but it is Light going that way, and it is Pratt going that way. And if I went back to the early 60s, I would take the number 8 bus down to Light and Pratt, and I'd walk across Pratt Street early in the morning to Pier 6, which was Lou Grasmick's lumber company, where I played 5 summers of baseball for Lou. He let me come to work early in the morning, get some work done, then we'd go play baseball. And I think 3 or 4 years ago, Nancy Grasmick became part of this. So that was part of Pratt Street. And then early 70s, I got out of Towson University and was looking for something fun and exciting. And my first job was in that building right there. And P.J. Mitchell and I met each other back then. So all of a sudden, Pratt Street is still it's still there. It's still part of my life. And then as Tricia was saying, 6 years ago, I was in the office with my partner, Rick Core, for 15 years, the founder and CEO of Evergreen. And I get a phone call from Jim Brady. And Jim said, Mike, have you ever thought about being Secretary of Commerce? And I said, Jimmy, not on my radar screen. And here I am, former Secretary of Commerce, and I had an absolute blast. And I do want to say this tonight, because as we're here tonight enjoying this great environment and these great friends, our friend, my friend, many of yours friends, Jim Brady is in a fight for his life. He's in a hospital in Northern Virginia, and he's fighting like hell. I mean, he's such a fighter. I got to give him some odds, Freeman. But it was, if not for Jim Brady, when he reached out and said, hey, Mike, the governor and I talked about this. We think you could possibly be pretty good at this. And I actually said no initially. And then I called him back and said, well, maybe we ought to talk. And Jim said, well, that's fine, but don't waste my time if you're not interested. Is that Jim Brady? Don't waste my time if you're not interested. So thank goodness. Last remark. So when I was in the commerce job, I said often, I would say that one day, Baltimore will be on the cover of Time magazine. Not because of something bad that happened. It would be because we would be known as the comeback city. We'd be the comeback city, the Renaissance of Baltimore. Well, we're not quite there yet. It's always about leadership having a plan, leadership having vision. We're going to get blessed one day, and we're going to have that combination, and we will make it on the cover of Time magazine. And a couple years ago, I made some remarks at a breakfast, and I said, I'd be happy with three things: pretty, clean, and safe. I'm not that greedy. Just give me those three. But again, thank you, Baltimore Sun and everyone. Thank you very much. Like that? Did I do it the way Tom Brady does it? Good. Thank you.
After the chairman of the University System of Maryland Board of Regents stepped down amid a crisis in 2018, Linda Gooden, a board member since 2009, stepped up. One of her first acts was to apologize for a widely criticized board vote to retain University of Maryland football coach DJ Durkin following the heat-stroke death of 19-year-old offensive lineman Jordan McNair. It was a frank recognition of reality that was needed to move the school beyond the crisis, and another example of Ms. Gooden's deft leadership. Prior to becoming chair, Ms. Gooden was a top executive at Lockheed Martin and served as a mentor to many college students and aspiring engineers. As a young woman, however, her goal was to be a math teacher. She went to Youngstown State University in Ohio as one of 2 female students majoring in math when she caught sight of a new computer, an IBM mainframe. She asked her dean, how do I work on that? And he told her she needed a degree in computers. She got one, interned at General Motors, and eventually learned how to write software, picking up jobs at General Dynamics and Martin Marietta as an aerospace software engineer. For several years, she worked on missile systems. She then embarked on a long career with Lockheed Martin, the capstone being her creation of the company's information systems and global solutions sector. She took the aerospace giant into IT services for government agencies. UMBC President Freeman Rabowski, who's here tonight, told us that Ms. Gooden's best quality is her ability to inspire others. We're pleased to count her among this year's class of inductees into the Baltimore Sun Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Ms. Gooden.
I think the thing you never want to do is follow Mike Gill. I want to thank the Baltimore Sun for this extraordinary recognition. It's humbling to be in the company of my fellow nominees whose work to enrich Maryland I've so long admired. I'm particularly grateful that this award acknowledges not only the success we've enjoyed in business, but how we've repaid that success, how we've tended to others. And I have a secret to share tonight, a secret I haven't even told my husband. I owe my entire career to a love affair. 50 years ago, when I began my education, I fell in love with a computer. And the rest is history. Freeman can appreciate that. My career is evidence that Maryland truly is a place of opportunity, a place where technology and innovation flourish, a place always investing in the future. I've always said, I don't understand why people are afraid of the future. I've always been scared of the past. I've dedicated my professional life to making America a better and safer place to live through information technology. And this philosophy extends beyond the workplace. As business leaders, I believe we all have an obligation to learn what's working and what's not working in our communities, and to offer solutions and opportunities. We all recognize that education is paramount to our success as a society. So my civic engagement leans largely on education, because everything I've achieved in my career had its roots there. And if we fail to provide the same education to those who come after us, to everyone who comes after us, we're failing a foundation, no social contract, to lift up one another, to guarantee access, equity, and opportunity, and to prove our humanity. Thank all of you for understanding just how much and how important it is to give back. And thank you for this award.
Alvin Hathaway Sr., who retired this summer as senior pastor at Union Baptist Church, says he grew up in the womb of the historic church on Druid Hill Avenue. Indeed, his family lived just a few doors down from it, and he earned a Doctor of Ministry degree with a dissertation focused on preaching and teaching servant theology to African American leaders in Union Baptist of Baltimore. Reverend Dr. Hathaway's education took him from Ohio to England. He studied at Harvard and Oxford, but his heart remained in the West Baltimore neighborhood in which he was born. That's where he delivers what he calls a walk-around gospel as he moves through the community, and it's where the bulk of his ministry has been carried out. Sandy Hillman, founder of Sandy Hillman Communications, has known Reverend Dr. Hathaway for years. His core goal, she told us, has always been service to his community. Every program he has started, every cause he has promoted, every ask he has made ties back to creating opportunities for the people to whom he is committed, she said. Despite his retirement, Reverend Dr. Hathaway is as engaged as ever in the community. He's working to revive the vacant PS 103, the public school that a young Justice Thurgood Marshall attended decades ago, and is on the boards of directors of multiple organizations. The two words that sum him up, according to Todd Yeary, senior pastor of Douglas Memorial Community Church, are visionary and collaborator. He not only sees big ideas, Reverend Dr. Yeary said, but he figures out ways to invite people in to be partners in the realization of those big ideas. The Baltimore Sun is happy to have him partner with us as an inductee into this year's Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Reverend Dr. Hathaway.
When I was young, I would jump, but it is a Tiff. It's an honor. One would say that how do you get recognized by persons in the community when recognition is not what you desire? It is improvement. And largely it's because that when I look at this room, I look at persons who, when I think about how you have blessed and invested in my life, it has been through relationship. I'm so happy to say that I have my wife with me, and if God continues to be good, next year we'll celebrate 40 years of marriage, and That's truly my secret weapon, truly the wind beneath my wings. Our two children just has blessed us with 3 grandsons. One who is the terror of the family was born on 9/11, and we're going to go and celebrate with him and my other grandsons in Texas tomorrow. Pray for us as we get on the airlines to celebrate together. But I want to say to you that there is much that we have to do. People in Baltimore don't realize that there are people who really love our city, people who really love our community, people who always invest in it, always thinks the best of it. We can have an amazing city. It has blessed me beyond measure. But I do have to say that there is a line in Scripture that says, is there anything good that comes from Nazareth? And many people don't think of the Upton community as a place from which good will come, but I was born there. I was born in the block of the church that I serve. Much of my ministry has been basically in a 10-block radius, though I've traveled the world. But there is one thing that I will ask of you. We should have in Baltimore City that Justice Thurgood Marshall should be to Baltimore City as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is to Atlanta. It should be no doubt. His contributions are exemplary. The work that he's done has changed and transformed lives. The school that he attended that I looked at as a young child has been vacant for over 25 years. The Henry Highland Garnett School, PS 103. It was designed by George Fredericks. Now think about this. George Fredericks designed the City Hall, Baltimore City Hall. George Fredericks designed the Baltimore City College High School that I attended. George Fredericks designed the Harold P. Rawlins Conservatory in Drew Hill Park. All fantastic, all amazing examples of architectural excellence. And here you have a school in West Baltimore that he designed, that designed in 1877, that has been vacant for 25 years. We talk about diversity and equity and inclusion. And I want you to know that I've worked over the past 3 years. I'm about $1 million short from $10 million. But my goal is to close that by the end of the year, to start construction of that property in the first quarter of 2022, and to bring to this community in West Baltimore a catalytic investment that will transform it and thereby send a signal to our city that our native son, Justice Thurgood Marshall, is worthy of respect and award, and that is why I take this award. I take it because there is good that comes from Nazareth, there's good that comes from Upton, there's good that comes from Baltimore City, and with that, I thank each and every one.
Jean Hitchcock is considered one of the most influential women in Baltimore, with a well-established reputation as a problem solver who is particularly adept at matching talented people with the jobs that suit them. As former Governor Martin O'Malley told us, he never interviewed a candidate for a judgeship unless Ms. Hitchcock was in the room with him asking questions and mulling over answers. She's simply one of the most capable people I've ever worked with, he said. Born at Johns Hopkins Hospital, Ms. Hitchcock is a Baltimorean through and through. Her grandfather was a caterer, her father worked for the Veterans Administration, and her mother was a Renaissance woman who went to college at age 50 to become a librarian. Ms. Hitchcock herself went back to school after starting a family. She first graduated from Morgan State University with a degree in sociology, worked in social services for a time, then married, had children, and eventually earned a law degree from the University of Maryland. She soon drew the attention of Stephen Sachs, then Maryland's Attorney General, who made her one of his top assistants and later the office's representative in the State House. After a stint in private practice and a move to Dallas, Texas, she returned to Baltimore to help run the NAACP before joining the O'Malley team in City Hall. When Mayor O'Malley was elected governor, she moved on to serve as his appointment secretary and ultimately chief legislative officer. Today, she's a special advisor at Johns Hopkins University. Michael Cryer, the former state Democratic Party chair, told us that she has integrity and values and that he's honored to know her. We're honored to include her among this year's inductees into the Baltimore Sun's Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Ms. Hitchcock.
Good evening, everyone. I decided that I would come here and not have any notes because I want to speak from my heart. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out and lift up my colleagues from Johns Hopkins University in medicine. I want you to know that in all of my professional life, I can say that I have never worked with a team of people who give more to Baltimore and the world through their science and medicine and education, and have worked tirelessly to take us through the most difficult time that any of us have ever lived through. And I am honored, simply honored, to be able to work with them, and I say thank you. Can I give them a shout out? But it's not what I've done, it's what I've received. So I stand here with you this evening to say that I am a child of Baltimore and I have received from Baltimore. You will not find anybody who loves and cherishes the city in which they were born other than me. This is a child born at Johns Hopkins. I wish I had found out why my mother went all the way across town to have me born at Johns Hopkins. There's a story in there I've missed somehow. 1914 McCullough Street received an impeccable education from the teachers and principals, the African-American Black principals and teachers that lived in our community and were the subject and the recipients of being a victim of segregation, but gave to the children. I went to 103. Reverend Hathaway, my mom walked me to 103 every day. Booker T. Washington Junior High School, one of the first students at Eastern High School, an impeccable education from Morgan State, then college, an impeccable one. But I want to just end by saying it is my family. It was the strong sense of family that took me through life and brings me here today. My mom and my dad gave everything in their working class spirit to give a quality of life to me. We talked about social justice and current events every day at 6 o'clock when we sat down to the table to eat. And Trish, my father read the Morning Sun, the Evening Sun, the News American, and the Afro-American every day. And so we talked about civil rights, and we talked about quality of life. And I went to church, and I was the recipient of sitting in the pew listening to ministers preaching civil rights, preaching equality, preaching education. This is my spirit. This is Baltimore. This is Baltimore in my soul. And so I want to end by saying, I am here because of all of that. I am here because of the richness of Baltimore. I am here because I want to give back to the citizens of Baltimore and to the institutions that have given me a very privileged life. And I will finally say this. I want to give a shout out to my daughter who's here. I do what I do because they're very humbling, my two daughters, I want to tell you. They're very humbling. But finally, if you want to do something for the kids of Baltimore, then let's communicate the importance and do what we can for two things. Two institutions are important to me: family and education. family, and education. And so to the Sun paper, thank you for this honor, for the those who nominated and are responsible for this. Thank you for the honor, and I look forward to many more days in Baltimore City. Thank you.
Kathy Hughes, who got her start as a teenager selling advertising copy at 10 cents a word for the Omaha Star, a Black-owned newspaper in Omaha, Nebraska, has gone on to build one of the largest and most influential media empires in America with Urban One, formerly known as Radio One. The business, which celebrated its 40th anniversary last year, is the largest African-American-owned diversified media corporation in the nation. In 1999, when Ms. Hughes took it public, she became the first Black woman to run a company listed on NASDAQ. Today, Urban One reaches more than 80% of Black America, with highly rated radio stations in cities including Baltimore, Washington, Atlanta, and Philadelphia, as well as cable networks TV One and Clio TV. The conglomerate also includes Reach Media, a syndication company that produces The D.L. Hughley Show, among others, and iOne Digital, a digital platform that offers social content, news, information, and entertainment. The core of her success, however, has been with radio stations like WOL in Washington and Magic 95.9 in Baltimore, where she applied old-school media concepts she learned at the Omaha Star and never failed to put community first. A DJ known as Conan told us Ms. Hughes always stressed serving the community, especially the Black community. She was a pioneer in giving the community a sense of purpose, he said. The Baltimore Sun is pleased to welcome Kathy Hughes to our 2021 Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Ms. Hughes couldn't make it tonight, but we'll be glad to accept the award on her behalf and see that she gets it. At the age of 20, Donald Hutchinson was elected to serve as a delegate to Maryland's Constitutional Convention from Baltimore County's Old Fifth District. He was the youngest delegate there. 3 years later, after his father, a member of the Maryland House of Delegates, died from cancer, Mr. Hutchinson was appointed to serve out his term. At the time, local government in Baltimore County long had been marked by backroom deals and corruption. But Mr. Hutchinson joined with other young reformers to challenge the Democratic machine. He eventually ran for state senate against a powerful incumbent and won, and later became Baltimore County executive, bringing a centrist approach to governance. After his second term ended in 1986, Mr. Hutchinson became president of a private sector development group and later president of the Greater Baltimore Committee, where he spent a decade encouraging business leaders and government officials from the city and counties to cooperate in promoting the region as a place to do business. He then became president and CEO of SunTrust Bank, and in 2007, the Maryland Zoo called for help. The nation's third oldest zoo was facing dire financial issues, and Mr. Hutchinson was hired as president and CEO to conduct a rescue. He is widely credited with saving the zoo. Diane Hutchins, the Maryland Zoo's vice president for governmental affairs, told us that Mr. Hutchinson was one of those elected officials who always wanted to do the right thing in the right way for the right purpose at the right time, and that he carried that on in every job he's ever had. The Baltimore Sun is pleased to welcome him into the 2021 class of our Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Tricia, and good evening, everyone. I retired a year and a half ago, and one of the things that struck me is that, and Tricia mentioned this, I was elected to my first public office to rewrite the state constitution back in 1967, and I was in my early 20s, and I was the youngest person in the room. I don't know when I became the oldest person in the room. I kind of missed that those middle years, which was kind of weird. A little anecdotal story. A good friend of mine, few people in this room will remember him, Bernie Troussler, who was a former chairman of BGE, a great friend. And funny enough, I was a member of the zoo board at the time, and Bernie had just retired. And I went to see him, and I asked him for a favor for the zoo, and as a board member. And Bernie said, "Don, you came to me at the right time." So why is that, Bernie? Well, you know, I just retired 6 months ago. He still had an office over at the old BGE building. The BGE was famous for doing that. He said, "I just retired 6 months ago." And he said, "You know, this is the right time because former CEOs have about a 2-year shelf life." And you have to think about that. Freeman, you really have to think about that for a moment. Because I can tell you, as a person who retired 1.5 years ago, during COVID, the shelf life was about 2 months, and not 2 years. I want to shout out to my wife, Peggy, who's with me. She's the love of my life, and I'm so happy that she's been able to share this moment with me. And I want to thank the Sun paper. Another anecdotal story. Back when I was county executive, so long ago, and again, I was 32 years old when I was elected county executive, and I loved the job. I loved every moment of it. In fact, I'm one of the luckiest people in the world because every job I've had, I've loved. Every minute of it, I've loved. There were jobs that I had that I knew it was time to leave, but I loved every one that I had. There was a reporter by the name of Lee Balin. And Lee, I can't remember if Lee was with the Evening Sun or the Morning Sun, but he worked for the Sun paper, and he was covering Baltimore County. United States Senator, and I'm going to give away an old story, but United States Senator Paul Sarbanes was a great friend of mine. He called me. He wanted me to hire a Greek immigrant into our planning department and bypass the civil service. Paul asked me to do that, and I did it. And we hired him, and Balin got the story. And Balin called me, and Balin said, "Mr. Hutchinson, is it true that you circumvented the civil service system of Baltimore County to hire someone at the request of United States Senator Paul Sarbanes?" And I said, "Yes." And there was silence. Forgive me for this. He said, "You bastard." And I said, "What?" And he said, "You were supposed to lie." That was going to be the story, the lie, and I didn't. I want to shout out to the Sun papers for still being a real newspaper and making sure that people understand what truth is in today's world. Let me say this. I had the good fortune, and Gene kind of took a few of the things that I was going to say. The honor of being able to serve in your hometown is something that nobody should ever take for granted. I was born and raised in Essex. I was born in Lutheran Hospital in Baltimore City. And I was, yeah. And I was born, and I lived in Essex. That's Hollandtown with grass. And I lived there for most of my political career. And then I moved into the city, and I've had this great pleasure of being able to live and work in my hometown. And for those of you that live in the surrounding counties, I dare you to tell people when you're out of state that you don't come from Baltimore. You don't tell people you come from Essex or from Towson or from Glen Burnie. You come from Baltimore. This is the anchor of this community. This is the home of this community, and we all should be proud of that. I am extremely proud of that. So I just want everybody to say, and thank you. Finally, Diane Hutchins was mentioned by Don Fry, and Diane and I had the pleasure of working together. She's the head of government affairs for the Maryland Zoo in Baltimore. I brought her there about 10 years ago. She worked with me at the Greater Baltimore Committee. She worked with me when I was Baltimore County Executive. I cite her because what every CEO knows is that while you're put in nice positions to make important decisions for whatever organization you're involved in, You might be the person who's trying to generate and develop the tools for the work to be done. But the work that is done by the people that you depend upon on your staff, the people that you depend upon from the community, the people that you depend upon from the business community, because you need partnerships from top to bottom, from beginning to end. And for those relationships, for some of you in this room that I've shared those relationships with, I am most grateful. Thank you for this award.
When Sabina Kelly took her first job as an assistant manager in a bank's financial center, she was one of very few women on that professional path, but she was quite comfortable blazing her own trail. Later, she appeared at another division within the bank, seeking a position as a commercial client relationship manager, even though there was no opening in the office. "If a position opens up, I want you to think of me," she told the division head. 3 months later, she had the job. That combination of initiative and smart networking has been a hallmark of Ms. Kelly's 4 decades in Baltimore banking. She retired in March as Greater Maryland Market President for Bank of America, having earlier worked in risk management and developed a healthcare specialty practice. Through her work at the Greater Baltimore Committee, Ms. Kelly helped create the Women's Advisory Board, which teaches employers how to attract and retain female leaders of tomorrow. She has mentored countless women and has a genuine desire to help others, colleagues said. Ms. Kelly grew up in working-class Gardenville and expected to earn a degree in chemistry from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. But there, she instead fell in love with economics, which put her on a career path in banking. Her successor at Bank of America, Janet Curry, says Ms. Kelly stands up for what she needs to, when she needs to, and she does it with grace. Those are qualities we find worthy of inclusion in this year's Baltimore Sun Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Ms. Kelly.
Thank you so much, Triff. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight. I just want to share with you a little story. My husband, who's with me tonight, Joe Kelly, who, by the way, Freeman, we met at UMBC. He pursued me with vigor, and I finally said yes. So we're blessed with 3 adult children, and our youngest called me while I was getting ready for this evening, although I missed the call because my phone was not with me. I know that's hard to believe that my phone wasn't with me, but I have a rule: if my children call, I always call them back or I pick up if I can, and I still have that rule. So our youngest, Caroline, is 26 and she's a therapist, so she must have had a minute between her clients and called me, and I missed. So you know how this is. People don't really talk that much at that age. It's a lot of texting. So I did have a chance to call her back, missed her, and then I sent her a text and said, "I'm really off my game. We have that big event tonight, and it's taken me a little bit longer to get ready, so it's just a pleasure to actually be here with all of you." So when I thought about the honorees tonight, it is about leadership. And what do leaders do? They're humble. They inspire. They have an absolute commitment to action. They care. And so it is really just an honor for me to be included with all of you, because I know that you, every day, you are taking care of and inspiring and helping a person or a whole community of people. And so thank you again. I really hoped on that my shelf life, since I just retired, is more than 18 months. So while I have had the privilege of 42 years with Bank of America, just retired this spring, I'm not finished yet. And so I would look forward to helping and serving with any and all of you to really help our community. And I am a city girl, and I was birthed at Sinai Hospital.
Jay Perman, the Chancellor of the University System of Maryland, was raised in Chicago, the only child of Ukrainian immigrants who had fled persecution to come to America. His parents ran a hand laundry when Dr. Perman was a child, but after his father died of cancer when Dr. Perman was 14, his mother had to sell the business and work as a seamstress. Young Jay Perman dreamed of becoming a doctor, a wish that came true after he was accepted to Northwestern University with financial aid and work study, followed by a full-ride scholarship to medical school there. He completed a residency in pediatrics and traveled to Harvard University to become a fellow in pediatric gastroenterology. As his career progressed, he became a department head and administrator and spent time working at universities on both coasts. In 2010, he was appointed president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and last year, in January, he became the 5th chancellor of the University System of Maryland. He has earned wide praise in that role as a compassionate leader and tireless advocate for higher education, and he somehow still finds time to serve on the boards of multiple organizations and to conduct weekly president's clinics at UMB, where on Tuesday afternoons, he sees pediatric patients from the University of Maryland Medical Center with a dozen students and faculty in attendance via Zoom if necessary. As Patricia Florestano, a former Maryland higher education secretary, says, he's a very smart and kind and decent man, and that makes a difference. We're happy to have him among those honored this year in the Baltimore Sun Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Dr. Perman couldn't be here tonight, but one of our other honorees, Linda Gooden, has generously offered to accept the award on his behalf. Ms. Gooden?
Jay couldn't be here tonight, but as you all know, he loves Baltimore. It may not be his birth home, but it certainly is his home today. He sent me an email this afternoon and said, please share these words with the audience. I'm deeply humbled by this recognition, and I thank the Baltimore Sun for the honor. This award is all the more special to me because I share it with the extraordinary men and women whom I'm proud to call colleagues and friends. What's more is that this Hall of Fame class isn't merely a collection of individuals. Rather, we're people who regularly work together to make life better in Maryland and Baltimore. And I'm excited to continue that work with you. Through the years, I've become ever more convinced that the health and wellness of our communities largely depend on us doing a better job of educating our people. Everyone deserves an engaging, enriching education, everyone. And every single day, I get to pursue that mission. It's a day I'm deeply grateful for. Thank you again.
Our final honoree tonight is Morgan State University President David Wilson. He has achieved much at the institution he's led since 2010. He procured the university's largest ever research contract, transformed the physical campus with state-of-the-art facilities, and last year secured a record-setting $40 million donation from philanthropist Mackenzie Scott. But the accomplishment he's most proud of is the $5 scholarship fund he established in 2011 to help Morgan students who are having financial difficulties stay in school. It represents the day Dr. Wilson left rural Alabama, where he lived with his parents and 9 siblings, to become a student at Tuskegee University. On the day he left, his sharecropper father gave him a $5 bill. He had been saving it for that moment to offer as an investment in his son. I may not be around to witness it, his father told him, but you will go far, and indeed he has. Dr. Wilson earned both bachelor's and master's degrees at Tuskegee, and then went on to Harvard University, where he added another master's degree and a doctorate in education. Before coming to Baltimore to become the 10th president of Morgan State University, Dr. Wilson was chancellor of the University of Wisconsin Colleges, a vice president at Auburn University, and an associate provost at Rutgers University in New Jersey. He serves on the boards of multiple education organizations and was a member of President Barack Obama's Board of Advisors on Historically Black Colleges and Universities. As Congressman Kwesi Mfume, chair of Morgan State's Board of Regents, told us, very little happens in higher education where Dr. Wilson is not called upon to give advice. The Baltimore Sun is pleased to include him in this year's class of inductees into the Business and Civic Hall of Fame. But before we ask Dr. Wilson to join us, I'd like to invite Kareem Kuzami from BGE to the podium. He will present the award to Dr. Wilson. Mr. Kuzami.
Well, thank you, and I'll keep this short. You know, it is a pleasure and an honor to present the award to Dr. Wilson. The partnership BGE has had with Morgan State has been a very strong one, and each day it's getting stronger, and that's really due to the commitment Dr. Wilson has to his school and the students there. We are very excited about seeing what the future has in store with Morgan, and we are very honored to be partnered with Morgan State and look forward to continuing to contribute and lift up our communities in partnership. So it's my honor and privilege to award this year's award, I guess the award to Dr. Wilson as this year's Baltimore Sun Hall of Fame inductee. Thank you.
Oh, that was a really surprise. Good evening, everyone. And when you're the last person to actually be presented, and you're standing between you and home, I had to draw upon perhaps some advice that my very best friend, who is the former president at Morehouse College, Dr. John S. Wilson, we've been friends for 30 years, he often says to me, well, David, just follow the 5 B's. I said, well, John, what are those 5 B's? And he said, be brief, brother, be brief. And so I certainly hope I can do that this evening. First of all, I am just so incredibly honored and humbled to be inducted into the Baltimore Sun Civic and Business Hall of Fame with just such an incredible and impressive group of business and civic leaders. You just don't know how humbling this is for me. I really do appreciate the incredible partnership, Kareem, that we have with BGE, and certainly look forward to growing that. I have come up through higher education, where the connection between universities and the states or regions in which they're located and the cities in which they're located has been my primary menu. I was recruited to Rutgers to make sure that Rutgers Camden was not just in Camden, but of Camden. And so when you go to Camden, New Jersey today, and you look at all of the economic development along the waterfront, that is the result of the work that we did. I was recruited to Auburn to be the vice president there because the university was not living up to its mission to serve the entire state of Alabama. And I was asked to come in and help that institution rethink its mission, re-engineer itself. And so if you go to Atlanta and drive from Atlanta down to Auburn, 120 miles, you see all kinds of economic development activity along Interstate 85. That is the result of the work that we did there for 11 years. And when the Board of Regents came knocking on my door after I left Auburn and went to Wisconsin to lead one half of the 26 campus University of Wisconsin system, thought I had gone there to stay 25 or 30 years and retire. I struggled with the decision as to whether I should leave. I had never set foot on the Morgan campus. I lived in Philadelphia all those years, but I had never been to Morgan. And they simply asked me to come out here and take a look. And I said to them, I think I would do this, but I'm not giving you any promises. And I came out and I walked the campus and I saw potential, and I saw potential in our city. And I looked in the faces of so many of those unbelievably brilliant, stunning students who looked like me and who were so incredibly brilliant, and many of them didn't know it. And I realized that I needed to be here in Baltimore and at Morgan and not in Wisconsin. And so to close this, the work that we are doing at Morgan is really about giving my father, Tricia, a return on the investment that he made in me. I grew up in this little shanty in rural Alabama with no plumbing, no electricity. I didn't go to school full time until I was in the 7th grade. I went to one of those little Rosenwald schools where they had 5 grades in one room with a big pot-belly stove with coal to keep us warm. My 6th grade teacher was the late Mrs. Luvinia Abernathy Coates, the sister of the late Ralph David Abernathy. And she said to me one day, you know, I want you to go home and tell your father something. I want you to tell him that if he could figure out a way to send you to school 5 days a week, you really, really have a bright future. And I told my father that when I got home. And here's what he said to me. He said, boy, college is for white people. And we never spoke about it again. And then 5 years passed, and I had been turned on by the magic of education and applied only to one school, Tuskegee Institute. It was the best college in America from my perspective, and they accepted me. And I got up that morning to pack my little 2 or 3 items to, in the vernacular, catch a ride over to Tuskegee. And my father got up in the adjacent room, and he came into the front room as I was about to go out the door. And he said to me, he said, David, this time he called me by my name. He said, son, I'm so proud of you. He said, you're about to do something that no one in this family has ever done. He said, you're about to go to college. And he said, you know, 5 years ago, you told me you wanted to go to college. And do you recall what I said to you? And I said, yes, Daddy, I recall. Because it was so painful. And he said, well, let me tell you what I was really thinking. He said, what I was really thinking was, how in the hell am I ever going to pay for you to go to college? He said, I've been saving for this day. He said, I've been saving for the day when I would see my little David go out that front door to college. He said, hold out your hand. And I held out my hand, and he put his hands in his overalls, and he pulled out something that he called a piece of money. and he put it in my hand. And he put it in my hand so hard. And he put his hand over mine. And I looked in his eyes, and it was the first time I'd ever seen my father cry. And he said, "Now, this is my investment in you. Give me a return." And I went out the front door as the sun was coming up and opened my hand, and Tricia, there in my hand, was a $5 bill. That was all that he had been able to save for 5 years to send me off to college. So the work that we are undertaking at Morgan to ensure that that institution will truly be of service as an anchor institution in this city in research, in academic outreach, in stellar teaching, in economic development, in educational reform, is really designed to give my father a return on that $5 investment. I'm humbled. I appreciate this recognition. And once again, congratulations to all of the other honorees. Thank you.
That concludes our formal presentation tonight. We would like to thank you for joining us this evening, whether online or in person. And those of you who are here in person, we would like to invite you to enjoy coffee and dessert in the lobby. Thank you.